Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching The Big Picture with me, Frank Pereira. Prime Minister Narendra Modi today inaugurated World Food India 2017 at Vigyan Bhavan in New Delhi. Speaking at the event, the Prime Minister described India as one of the fastest growing economies in the world. He also said that India launched the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Sampada Yojana to create world-class food processing infrastructure. This will leverage investment of US $5 billion, benefit 2 million farmers and create more than 500,000 jobs. The Prime Minister made a strong pitch for stepping up foreign investment in the country to global foods companies such as Nestle and Unilever, along with overseas policy makers, highlighting the World Bank's ease of doing business rankings in which India has surged 30 places to 100. On this edition of The Big Picture, we will analyze if India can become a global food processing hub. Joining me on the program today are Alok Sinha, former Chairman, Food Corporation of India; Himangshu, Senior Editor of the Economic Times; S.P.Sharma, Chief Economist, PhD, CCI; and R.T. Ghai, Senior Lecturer, Institute of Hotel Management, Pusa. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. Alok Sinha, I'd like to begin with you. Of course, your opening remarks on the mega event that we saw the Prime Minister launching earlier today.
No, I think the event is very timely because India, as one of the biggest food producers of the world, is in a very advantageous position to become the hub for a food processing industry. Unfortunately, till recently, the food processing industry in India has not been able to take off. You can see that, till some time back, even chips and biscuits and such other small-time snacks were imported into India from Australia, New Zealand and Dubai. But I think now, with the fact that our agriculture is about to take a big leap, we have to ensure that the farmers' produce gets a good market at a fair price to be able to keep up the agriculture productivity. And for that, it is not merely the consumption of the main cereals that matters. It also means that the surplus food output has to be converted into food processing snacks for consumption not only in India but for export outside.
Sure. Himangshu, there's no doubt that, there's a major scope as far as food processing is concerned. Do you believe that we are heading in the right direction, and how far can we go?
I think the scope is phenomenal, as Sinha Sahab just said. Because, if you look at any agricultural commodity, India is in the number 1, 2 or 3 producers and both, whether it is milk, whether it is bananas, whether it is wheat, rice, everywhere. And the whole world looks at Indian agriculture, more than India, the international guys are looking at how is the monsoon progressing, because India is very important in all food commodities. But unfortunately, we've done precious little in developing food processing. Because this is a crucially important industry because it directly creates jobs in villages. It helps the farmer. If you look at the government's mission to double farmers' income by 2022 or something, it cannot come just by giving them higher prices of produce. That will lead to incredible amount of inflation. So it has to be a combination of output, livestock, and food processing facilities. Because what it does is it creates a much bigger market for the farm produce. And for that, what's important is to, India should somehow fit into the global supply chain system of food processing. And, the fact that you've had this event here, it's a very prestigious event. It's the first time it's happening in India. And the kind of CEOs who have come, that itself shows that we have done the basic policy and environment preparedness to attract these guys. Now it's a matter of signing good deals and supporting them. And I think it's very encouraging that the Prime Minister spent a lot of time in this event, listening to speeches, making one himself, and then going around the exhibition and digital technologies and various shows. So,
some visiting dignitaries also were made part of this event. I think the Latvian Prime Minister and and henceforth. So I think we are heading in the right direction.
Heading in the right direction. And one very important thing, if you want to become a global supply chain hub, you want to attract investment, if you have a good domestic market, it helps, because people do not like to come and invest to export completely. So it's a combination of a good domestic market and, India's own strengths in food. We've seen some Indian dishes make waves abroad. I mean, people say, the national dish of Britain is the
Butter
tikka
chicken.
from India or butter
Yeah.
chicken.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and I think if you blend Indian skills with international technologies, anything can happen upwards.
Sure.
Yeah.
S.P.Sharma, as far as the ease of doing business, I think even that report came out at the right time. Do you believe that going forward, the 30 places jump that we've seen in the ease of doing business report as well, do you think that's going to help some of these food processing mega giants to enter the market?
Yes, ease of doing business is very, very important for the food processing industry, not only for the food processing, but all the manufacturing industries. And food processing industry is one of the most important ingredient of our manufacturing process, as this is also part of the Make in India program, a significant part of Make in India program. And the sector has immense opportunities, but full of problems. There are domestic problems also and the international problems also. Like in our exports, we are only 2.2% of the global food processing exports. Even USA is 10% of the total food processing exports. Why we are not able to generate a lot of exports? Because of so many issues generated by the advanced economies, majorly by the US and EU, in terms of TBT and SPSS measures. And they impact our export scenario significantly. And at the domestic front, we have poor warehousing and storage capacities. We need to upgrade the agri infrastructure for to become a food processing hub. And second is the lesser facilitation by a dedicated agency to the farmers. Though FSSAI is there, FSSAI, but that is also for the post-production facilities. So for the pre-harvest, pre-product, there is a lot of need to address them and to guide them to the farmers.
Sure.
So that is important for the to become a food processing hub. And the other thing is that a lot of inorganic chemicals are used in our agriculture production. So that also needs to be shifted to the organic chemicals. So we should not majorly focus on the inorganic, because the advanced economies are identifying the pesticides in our products, and I believe there are 67 pesticides found in our products, in the food processing products by the SPSS measures. So there are problems at the domestic front and at the global front. But we have immense potential. The potential will start from the grassroots level. Firstly, developing the agri infrastructure, which is very, very poor. And the gross capital investment in the agri infrastructure is very meager actually. We need to enhance the public investments in the agriculture sector. Firstly, to connecting the farms with the mandis. So the facilitation will start from the connectivity of the farmers with the mandis, then linking them to the good warehouses and increasing the storage capacities, then increasing the productivity of our farm sector. Then that will go a long way to increase our participation in the global food market and to become a major global hub for the food processing industry.
Sure. Artika, from an academician's point of view, what's the limit as far as the food processing sector is concerned?
So, from the food production department and from the academics, if I talk about, the food processing can be a major place from where we can start training our students, and then they can be a good entrepreneur. Right from the time when they are after doing their 12th, they are looking forward for the new avenues. And this could be a good avenue for them to move into food processing units. And they can be vast, as the government is investing a lot of money into it, and it will be a big industry. So this would be a very good avenue for them to become a good entrepreneur.
So the scope for the students
Is very high.
increases as far as...
Very high.
Okay.
Is
Okay.
very high in this.
You know, let's look at the challenges really now going forward. Alok Sinha, you know, where do you think the biggest challenges lie really?
Well, you know, Frank, I'm so glad you used the word challenge. You know, my opening remarks were positive because at that point of time I was thinking basically of the agricultural produce from the soil. Now, meat, canned meat is a very important item of food processing. And unfortunately, because of stray but very mischievous remarks by some stray public figures against the slaughter of animals, has meant that the unproductive cattle is increasingly not being sold in the cattle mandis. You know, it is not being reported fairly that the cattle mandis in North India are getting more and more deserted. So we are shooting ourselves in the foot by damaging the canned meat industry. You know, the slaughter of animals should be done in a kind and compassionate way, but I think those people who are hitting at the slaughter of animals, they don't have kindness and compassion in mind, because had that been so, they would have also attacked the way chicken are cooped up and transported in tempos. My point is that export of canned meat is very important and very easy for India to do, and we should now politically and administratively focus on that.
You know, Himangshu, these are challenges that are going to come up every now and then, and we've seen that history shows that these kind of things do happen in this country. How do we overcome some of these challenges, and do you believe that we can overcome them in the near future?
See, one thing about our country is that once a determined action is taken and once there's consensus that something has to be done, it eventually gets done, you know, starting from liberalization or, you know, some very difficult decisions India has taken. And the very fact that, you know, we've had this major conference and unflinching support from the Prime Minister himself, you know, I think he used the word, I will give my wholehearted support,
yes,
and I'll be available. I think the dissemination of this message, and I think once you make a beginning, some investments starts coming and you start changing the life of some farmers, and, you know, if some youngsters, as this lady mentioned about startups, if they have a success, then automatically they generate snowballing goodwill. And I think once you have success, all these problems will get sorted out. As far as slaughtering of animals is concerned, I think there's still a lot of room within the rules of what is allowed, and that there should be no reason why, you know, processed meat canning and exporting should be falling. You know, you can always look for reasons of why this is wrong, why that is wrong. But I think once you have the broad policy framework and the government is what it seems from today's event is in a kind of a mission mode that we want to do it. You know, you had the food processing minister who's been working on this for the last 1 year.
Yes.
I've been meeting her occasionally, and each time, you know, she's so excited. We're getting this event in India. We're going to have it. She's from Punjab. She wants to do something for that state. You know, that state's basic economy is agrarian. It's not a source of raw material. It's nothing else. You know.
Yes.
Food processing, food park, and, you know, that's a model which I think can be replicated already in, you know, the few food parks which are successful. Other state governments are keen to do it themselves because, you know, it offers an alternative to farmers. You know, you're used to the same crop, low yield, small land holdings, and then comes a food park where you go to a different crop which also replenishes the soil nutrients. It leads to better water management. There are all kinds of good agricultural practices, modern technology that comes in. So I think there would be a transition barrier from, you know, the way agriculture and food processing has been done, with not much focus on quality, a lot of, you know, loose approach to it. But the moment you get these big investments, you know, one good thing that happens when a big company, Indian or foreign, comes in, they are very, very law-abiding. You know,
sure.
Whatever the image might be.
You know, talking about big companies, who are some of the big players in the industry right now?
You know, you already have people like Nestle, Pepsi, all these big brands. They are there. Kargil is one.
Cargill is a big
Yes.
food
And
supplier.
I was speaking to Kargil's Asia Pacific head last evening, and one of the points he made was that he's very happy about this FSSAI standardization that is coming, because otherwise you had competition who would use any oil, do anything, and sell something cheaper. One of the things this company faces is that they abide by laws like if a truck should have 1 ton, they will load 1 ton. But a rival might overload it completely,
Yes.
and that is not enforced by the authorities. Same for effluents, waste. A big company will abide by
the rules. Yeah.
But many of these small unorganized players, I won't say they are villains or crooks, but they're not regulated.
Sure.
So as soon as you have more of these big companies who are used to international standards, and if you want to make India a global hub, then you have to
Abide to some
abide
standards.
by that. You have to deliver quality products, which Indians are very much capable of. But if there's no strict enforcement of rules, and I think that is one challenge: the regulatory environment, the implementation. If an entrepreneur is related to somebody powerful, so be it. If he violates, he should be booked. And yeah.
S.P.Sharma, talking about startups and some of the other smaller players in this particular industry that might come up in the near future, do you believe that they can compete with someone like an MNC like a Pepsi, or for that matter a Nestle, or any one of these big multi-billion-dollar giants?
Yes, opportunities are immense because we have a huge food processing market. We have around 40 billion food processing market in India right now, and that is also anticipated to increase tremendously in the coming times. But we need to focus on few parameters, like firstly the farm pattern. There is a need for the diversification of our crop pattern, because the most of the farmers are concentrated on the few farm products like wheat and cereals and
Wheat,
rice, and so this needs to be diversified for the proper food processing and to export to the other markets also, and for the domestic consumption, because we are importing a lot. Our imports are also significant. We are importing at around $22 billion of food processing products from the foreign markets. So if there is diversification in the crop pattern, and we are substituting our import scenario also, then there are a lot of opportunities for the entrepreneurs to manufacture from India and to export to the other markets.
So there's a big scope for make in India in this sector, is what you're suggesting.
Yes.
Okay.
So with the diversification, I believe there must be focus on the second green revolution. First green revolution was wood. That gave a good push to India's growth trajectory with the agriculture production. But at this juncture, when the total food habits have been changed, not only in India but across the world, so we also need to diversify our crop pattern with a good green revolution that will concentrate not only the traditional food items but also the newer pattern and newer seeds and new technology and increased productivity as compared with the other good global giants like USA, China, Netherlands, Germany. These are exporting lot, and their export scenario and their participation in the world food processing is also very significant. But we have also potential. We are an agrarian economy, and we have lot of laborious farmers like in Punjab, Haryana, Western UP. These farmers are very laborious, and they are working. They are also producing from the foreign markets. In Canada, they are developing the good techniques. Why not in India? And there is a need to adopt the good practices of the best producing states like Punjab. Punjab is good in the agriculture production. Haryana is also good. So the agriculture practices of these states can be adopted by the other lagging states. Those who are, because the climate conditions are same across in so many states, barring few states, but the lot of diversity is there in the productivity level. Why the diversity? So we need to minimize the divergence in the productivity levels by adopting the best practices of the best producing states. So that will give a big push to our agriculture production, and that can be a good opportunity for the food processing sector.
Sure. As far you spoke about the tremendous potential the sector has as far as students and academics goes, but what about the challenges? What kind of challenges do you see?
So, regarding the challenges, I think there need to be much more food processing training departments, or the training institute should be opened up. To add on to what Sir is saying, that regarding the best practices being used in the states, especially the food processing units are concentrated more over the coastal areas. Rather than in the areas like UP or Punjab, where the food produce is good. So the training institutes need to be developed. Besides that, new technology that is being already utilized in the other countries can be brought in and can be taught to the students in these training institutes.
So that the skill sets improve.
Skill sector needs to be improved into the food processing. Besides that, food processing is a very slowly and silently growing industry. At the moment, about 10 billion market. It is a $10 billion market, and it has a scope of about $540 billion by about 2020. So it is growing at a very slow pace, but it has immense scope and potential, and even the students would like to go into this.
Okay, sure. Final closing comments from all my guests now. So I'm going to begin with Alok Sinha. Everyone's been talking about best practices. We've seen milk, Amul show us the way really as far as processing of milk is concerned. Can that be adopted with some of the other food products as well?
My view is that, for example, in Indian snack, Haldiram, Bikanerwala and other such companies are doing a tremendous job, but I think the system as a whole treats them as the poor cousins of Pepsi and Coke and Nestle and Lay's and things like that. Amul has shown that in milk and dairy products, the Indian model is as good as any in the world. And after the sanctions were imposed by the European Union and the USA on Russia, Amul has been exporting so much of dairy products to Russia that it has resulted in a geometrical leap in Amul's turnover. I think similarly, if the system as a whole, I'm not blaming the government or anyone, but if the system as a whole were to encourage the Haldiram type of entrepreneurs in India to better package and better brand their products, it could be exported, because I've been to some of the best restaurants and bars overseas, and I've seen that now, if I may use a color term, white, the white man prefers Indian dry snacks with his drinks and not so much as the Western one. I think there's a world to be won over if we give tremendous encouragement to the Indian entrepreneur.
Okay, sure. Himangshu, what's your concluding remarks on the program? We've heard Alok Sinha say that the world is changing as far as Indian snacks are concerned.
Yeah.
Can we take that to the next level?
Yeah, in fact, Indian consumption is also changing. If you go to any modern store in any market in Delhi, you'll see so many of these, ready-to-eat kind of packed food where you just boil and you have, chana masala ready, you can have dal ready, anybody can boil it. And the way lifestyles are changing, the way people's working compulsions are there, there's enormous scope to get people into buying such products. So what you need to ensure is quality and hygiene, a very strict enforcement of that.
Sure.
And the rewards are pretty high. The reason Haldiram and all are doing well, as Sinha Saab said, is because people trust it, that, you won't eat it and fall ill. Even certain noodle brands, you are far away in Ladakh or somewhere, if you find that brand, okay, here's something safe I can eat. So there's already this huge potential, and people are just asking for simple quality stuff.
True, and it's not too difficult to deliver on that, is it?
Yeah, and there are many success stories in, small
Sure.
islands in Delhi, Mumbai, where people are buying such products, and
Sure.
I think it can easily be expanded.
S.P.Sharma, your closing comments on the program.
Yes, I would like to submit that there is a need to strengthen the university industry linkages to create center for excellence for the food processing sector, because with the centers for excellence for the food processing know-how, that will give a big push to the food processing sector, because
Sure.
there is a lot of need for awareness to the farmers and to the food processing units for the international practices and the to generate good productivity and to generate good production and to export to the other markets. That will be a great thing for creating the centers for excellence at the state level and at the district level.
District level as well. All right,
Yes,
Arti, your concluding remark on the program.
So, such promotion, when connecting it to the university, such promotion and some scholarship programs could be further enhanced, and some bank loans and etc. things can be done for the young entrepreneurs to come up with their ideas and to promote this food processing units into a smaller, starting from a smaller unit and then increasing it to bigger as and when their production increases as well as their profits increases.
All right, on that note then I'll have to call it a wrap on this edition of The Big Picture. I'd like to thank all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. That's all the time we have today. See you again next time.